This story began with a fat boy in a room, glaring at his phone with a disgusted face. This world thrived on the weird concept of men and women playing reverse roles. Women were stronger, they married husbands and gave birth to daughters. They were also responsible for supporting the family financially, while the husband stayed home playing nannies. Another critical problem with this world was that the spiritual energy was extremely low, making it impossible for our protagonist to recover his full strength. Our protagonist was once an emperor, but during a wild battle with the demon queen, Venerable, they both got wrecked so hard that they lost their bodies. However, by a strain of luck, our protagonist managed to survive, and his spirit accidentally traveled into this world, arriving just in time to inhabit the fat body. Speaking of this obese body he had inhabited, its original owner appeared to have been someone named Lin Mo. From the memory the protagonist gathered, Lin Mo was an ordinary rich kid who attended a top private high school. However, there was another problem: the demon queen, Venerable, whom he had battled. He wondered if she had also been brought back to life and was in this world. Before he could recover his strength, he had no option but to live in this world as Lin Mo. As a former emperor who used to rule kingdoms, he would now have to start attending school like some teenager. He opened the door and stepped out of the room, now dressed in Lin Mo's school uniform. Looking around the house, he noticed that Lin Mo's house wasn't so bad, but unfortunately, it was smaller than his last fish pond. From memory, he gathered that Lin Mo's parents had died in a car accident when the boy was younger. As if that wasn't enough, his grandmother had Alzheimer's and was also in the hospital. Talk about bad luck. With that, his evil, unrelated auntie took up the role of his guardian, so Lin Mo had no option but to start living with her family. However, in the blink of an eye, everything that belonged to him was taken by the evil witch. With his hand in his pocket, he reflected on how the original owner of this body was a complete weakling with no support and had silently accepted everything that had been thrown at him. As he stepped into the living room, he noticed 3 people seated at the dining table. One was his four-eyed uncle named Yingjun, and the other was his evil auntie's brat named Zixuan. Noticing his presence, his auntie Lin Lai stared directly at him and said she heard all about his joke of an engagement to a girl named Yanhui. Hearing this, our chubby protagonist wondered who the heck Yanhui was. However, at that moment, he remembered that Lin Mo's grandmother had initially arranged an early marriage between the boy and the so-called Yanhui. But when the girl heard about the arranged marriage, she was disgusted to oblivion at the thought of getting married to Shrek. As a result of this rejection, Lin Mo was left heartbroken, so while crossing the street he was distracted, and was accidentally run over by a truck gun. With his demise, the marriage agreement was immediately cancelled. With that, the protagonist felt some kind of relief because, as an emperor of his generation, he couldn't possibly marry a girl in this weird world. Noticing he was lost in thought, his auntie asked if he was listening to what she was saying. With a desolate look, our protagonist, whom I would call Lin Mo henceforth, said the engagement was only a joke and then asked that no one arrange any marriage on his behalf ever again. His aunt stared at him and felt uneasy, wondering why the kid was acting kind of different that morning. She could feel a sensation of tyranny that was unexplainable. Lin Mo joined them at the dining table, and as he stared at the food that was served, he realized he wasn't hungry since he was on a diet. However, in order not to starve the fat body he inhabited to death, he had no choice but to eat. His cousin, Zixuan, turned to him and remarked that if he were in his shoes, he would study abroad, considering that everyone in school had witnessed his shameful expression of love. But our boy felt that his croaky voice was nothing but noise. At that moment, he wondered why he had to talk with the useless lowlife when he had been an emperor who reigned for thousands of years. However, for the time being, it was necessary for him to engage in petty conversation since he had to play the role of an ordinary person. With that, he reluctantly replied that he was fine with the school and had no need for a change. Zixuan then laughed and said he couldn't care less about the school he attended as long as he got good grades. But Lin Mo was done talking with the arrogant face. An hour later, a car screeched to a halt. The driver inside turned to Zixuan, called him boss, and then informed him that they had arrived. Grabbing his bag, Zixuan coldly instructed Lin Mo not to get out of the car at the same time as him. Hearing this, Lin Mo shot him a terrifying side-eye, sending a chill of fear down his spine. So Zixuan hurriedly alighted the car, frightened. At the same time, Lin Mo stepped out of the car, stood in front of the school building, and was impressed with the architecture of the world. But just then, 2 random guys walked past him wearing shorts, making him wonder why the dudes were displaying their white legs while the girls were dressed normally. he suddenly heard a female voice asking a girl to take a look at the guy's hot legs. The girls then laughed and said the boy's legs were gorgeous. Lin Mo found this abnormal behavior disgusting and felt the world was a terrible place. But that wasn't his main problem. His concern, however, was that Venerable might have traveled to this world as well, so he needed to strengthen himself as soon as possible. As he walked into the school, he remembered that his class was supposed to be Senior Class 2. He stepped inside his class, and that's when he heard a voice shouting that the fat cow was back in class. The girls then laughed while telling Yanhui to see her pig of a boyfriend. However, Lin Mo walked past the girls to his seat, ignoring them like an unread text from an annoying ex, while Yanhui just stared, wondering why the boy was giving her the silent treatment. Meanwhile, Lin Mo sat in his usual spot, and all he could think about was how difficult it was for him to refine his body without the help of spiritual energy and natural treasures. Suddenly, a hand tapped his shoulder, and a voice asked if he still refused to believe that Yanhui couldn't genuinely like him. It turned out to be a pink-haired girl who, while still grabbing his shoulders, said that if Lin Mo had paid attention to what she said, it would have helped his miserable existence. With his eyes shut, Lin Mo could tell from memory that the girl was the table mate of the original owner, Yunshu. Yunshu shifted her gaze to him and asked him not to think too lowly of himself just because he was in class 2. However, Lin Mo had already crossed his arms, growing tired of hearing her talk like a parrot. Yunshu then smacked him on the back and said he still had a chance to get Yanhui to adore him, only if he shed some fat and dressed up properly. She remarked that there were no ugly men, only lazy men. However, Lin Mo, already fed up with the discussion, asked her to speak up already, if she had something sensible to say. She then asked him how he knew she had something to say, and he replied, saying that, as far as he could remember, she wasn't this kind. Placing a finger on her chin, she confessed that she actually had a favor to ask. But before she could ask, Lin Mo immediately said in the background that he wasn't doing any favor for her. Angrily, she raised her fist and said all she wanted was for him to play games with her, and as a reward, she promised to introduce him to a more curvier chick than Yanhui. She said he could never reach the top as a lone ranger, and then also promised to take him to the Waju Mountains with her over the summer. She assured him that he would love the view of the breathtaking starry sky and would regret it for the rest of his life if he missed out. Lin Mo thought about it and figured that high mountain spots were known to have high probabilities of spiritual energy gathering. This would be the perfect opportunity for him to get some of that spiritual energy. So, he agreed to participate in her game, but warned that he wasn't very good at playing games, making the girl excited. She then informed him that she had a gaming appointment with a Class 3 girl who believed the delusion that she was the best. She also mentioned that after school, they would be using the computer club. After school that day, at the computer lab, she informed him that she intentionally postponed the club events so no one would disturb them. While sitting in front of the computer, she showed him a number and excitedly urged him to hurry up and log in. With that, Lin Mo typed in the username and password. At that moment, he dove straight into the game, surrounded by a flash of green light. His character in the game was a guy with long white hair wielding a levitating sword. While staring at the screen, Lin Mo quickly figured out that the name of the game character was Mama Baby. In the game, Yunshu informed him that she had also invited another girl to join their team. Just then, a voice shouted, "I'm here," grabbing Mama Baby's attention. A red-haired character with an ID named Cat Slayer ran towards them, excited that, for the first time, they had a male character in their team. She then asked Mama Baby who he was and where he was from. Mama Baby simply replied that he was Yunshu's classmate. Cat Slayer, obviously in love, joined hands together and blushed while staring at Mama Baby. However, Yunshu immediately interrupted her moment of affection by briefing the team that she had initiated a 3 versus 3 PK mode with the required number of skills. With that, the game began as Cat Slayer bolted away from the team, instructing Mama Baby and Yunshu to stay back, while she took it upon herself to annihilate the opposing team in solo mode. Yunshu also followed closely behind her, instructing Mama Baby to find a spot to hide while she went to see how everything would play out. However, with features like immortality, magic spells, and sword flying, Lin Mo was very familiar with the game's design, and it was just like the world he was coming from. With headphones perched on his chubby head, Lin Mo was convinced that, based on everything he was witnessing, there might be immortals in this world he had no knowledge of. With that, he knew he had to tread carefully. Back in the game, while sitting on a rock, it was announced that Cat Slayer had been eliminated by the flying feather. At that moment, the cat slayer girl spawned again just at the safe zone and was furious at how useless she was. So she bolted again, telling Lin Mo that a mistake was a mistake, but this time she was going to get her revenge. It didn't last 2 seconds before the game system announced again that the cat slayer had been destroyed by the flying feather. She then spawned back to life just right at the safe spot, yelling that she had underestimated the enemy. In a blink of an eye, she bolted again while screaming that this time she was damn serious. However, at that moment, Yunshu communicated on the intercom, warning that there must be a master on the opposite side who was always eliminating the cat slayer, so she would have to help her. But in a matter of seconds, the system announced that both chicks had been annihilated by the flying feather. Yunshu instantly became furious, and over the intercom, she snapped at Cat Slayer, asking why she was so useless even after she had brought a man to get her LSP fired up. But Cat Slayer, over the intercom, mentioned that the master of the top 100 kings must be the flying feather on the opposing side. Just then, Yunshu turned to Lin Mo and warned him that the notorious flying feather was approaching his way. But our boy was cold and calculated, so he told her not to worry about him. With tens of thousands of years of developed fighting instincts, Lin Mo had mad reflexes like Spider-Man to dodge incoming attacks even in the game. Meanwhile, in an internet cafe, a voice roared, ordering someone to flank around because the ops had been revived and the enemy was now in Zone B. Inside the cafe, a golden-haired girl stared intently at the computer screen, while a brown-haired girl called her Yutang and praised her for being incredibly powerful, saying she truly deserved the title of one of the top 100 kings. Another voice on her side warned her that an enemy was running away and then asked her to catch the fool before they escaped. However, Yutang assured the girls that the idiot would not escape. At the same time in the game, Lin Mo noticed he was being chased by the flying feather. So, he steadied his footing and charged forward, confident in the fact that since he had been an emperor, no enemy had ever managed to chase him down and catch him. Seeing how swiftly Lin Mo bolted with the speed of light, Flying Feather was startled beyond words. She had never seen anything like that before. But then, Lin Mo knew that with the low skills of his game character, it would be impossible for him to win since the attack hits in the game were also quite challenging. So right then, he channeled his divine energy into his control. He then stepped out of hiding and, noticing this flying feather, assumed he must be a rookie, clueless about how crucial good hiding skills were in a game like this. So, she immediately launched an air attack, desperate to end the guy once and for all. But our boy swiftly tapped some keys on the keyboard and clicked the mouse simultaneously like some YouTube gaming expert. With a determined gaze, he knew this was the perfect opportunity he had been waiting for. Without hesitation, he hurled his blade towards Flying Feather's direction with swift accuracy, and it impaled her guts mid-air. That instant, the game system announced that Mama Baby had eliminated the Flying Feather. The girls at the cafe were shocked in disbelief that the mighty Yutang had been defeated for the first time by a rookie. Even Yutang widened her eyes in disbelief at what had just happened. Back at the computer lab, Yunshu stood up in excitement and was about to say something. However, before she could, she noticed Lin Mo's head was bowed as if he were upset. Concerned, she asked if everything was okay. Lin Mo, on the other hand, felt so weak and was sweating profusely because he had never expected that using his spiritual energy to win the game would severely affect his body. A few minutes later, the second round of the game commenced with Yutang perching on a tree branch, and over the intercom, she was informed that all her team members had been eliminated by the ops. At that moment, she saw Lin Mon running in the distance, and was determined this time to even the score. She leapt down from the tree branch and started to chase after him. Momo Baby, on the other hand, seeing that he was been chased, knew he had to stimulate his weak lower body again with his divine energy. After running a distance, he turned towards Yutang and fired his blazing sword at her. The sword moved with so much speed and precision. While on the hot chase, Yutang saw the incoming attack but wondered why the dimwit would launch such an attack from so far away. Surprisingly, before she could even react, the sword stabbed her thigh, and she went down instantly. Staring in shock at the sword lodged in her thigh, she assumed it was a warning strike meant to stop her from pursuing further. At the cafe, her team member pointed out that with the second defeat in a row, Yunshu would smugly laugh at their faces. Hearing this, Yutang grabbed her by the collar and angrily demanded to know if she was aware of the true identity of their opponents. If she did, she urged her to call the girl over immediately. After that, she leaned back, fuming with anger while silently muttering the name Mama Baby. Meanwhile, at the school computer lab, Yunshu received a call asking her to come over. With glistened eyes, she happily turned to Lin Mo and complimented him on his impressive gaming skills. However, Lin Mo calmly stood and said he was leaving. He began to walk out of the computer lab while reminding her not to forget the promise she had made. Some time passed, and a cab dropped Lin Mo off at home. He stepped inside his room, dropped his suitcase, and immediately collapsed on the bed, exhausted from using the little spiritual energy he had on the game. The following morning in school, Zixuan loudly asked Lin Mo why he had refused to announce to the entire class that the marriage contract between him and Yan Hui had been cancelled. Lin Mo gave him a terrifying side glance and said there was no need to explain anything to anyone. After saying that, he began to leave while Zixuan just stood there fuming that the fat greasy bitch was too cocky for his own good. As Lin Mo stepped inside the class, Yunshu was already anticipating his arrival. She quickly informed him that their opponent from the game, Flying Feather, was a girl whose real name was Yutang. Excited for whatever reason, she held her fist up and said the girl was surprisingly a student in their school, while our guy remained unusually calm. Noticing his cold reaction, Yunshu remarked that since he got rejected by his crush, he had lately been looking like Dracula fighting an addiction. After that, she informed him that Yuetang would love to see Momo Baby. Hearing Momo Baby, Lin Mo shot her a deathly gaze that creeped her out. He then warned her never to call him Momo Baby ever again. Suddenly, a chick walked into the class and then slammed her hands on Lin Mo's desk. It's Yan Hui who demanded they clear the rumors spreading that the marriage between them had been cancelled. Yunshu immediately cut in, saying she was taking the issue too far, and then asked her to show a little bit of compassion to Lin Mo. Yan Hui then focused on her asking what her business was with the conversation she was having with Lin Mo and if she had started catching feelings for the Peter Griffin ripoff. However, Lin Mo, with an expression devoid of any feelings, told Yan Hui that whether the rumors were true or false, there was still no possibility that they would ever be together, leaving her in shock. Still, she warned him never to say he was going to marry her again, as it disgusted her to the point of throwing up. She also warned him not to call her his girlfriend. Meanwhile, two random guys watched and heard everything Yan Hui said to Lin Mo. One of them commended Lin Mo for being strong enough to endure such harsh words without crying, while the other said if he had been in Lin Mo's shoes, he would have dropped out. Suddenly, a feminine shadow appeared in the doorway of the class, causing the simp boys to turn their heads, and what they saw left them in awe. It was none other than Yutang and her girls who stormed right inside the class with so much finesse, like they were auditioning for Total Divas. Yutang immediately pointed her finger at Lin Mo's direction and ordered him to come out. Yan Hui instantly froze in shock and asked if she was referring to her. But Yutang coldly called Lin Mo Momo Baby and then asked him to come outside the class. After that, she stepped out with her minions following closely behind. The class fell silent, and everyone wondered who this Momo Baby was. Yunshu immediately slapped Lin Mo on his back, urging him to indicate that he was Momo Baby. But Lin Mo was already fed up, blazing with fury that the silly girls continued to call him Momo Baby instead of Emperor. The femboys of the class then approached Lin Mo, begging to know why Yutang had come to meet him and why she was calling him Momo Baby. But Lin Mo just ignored their ugly faces. At the same time, Yunshu bowed her head and pleaded with him to play a game against Yutang, promising he could cut off any ties afterwards. With that, Lin Mo walked out of the class to meet Yutang outside. Getting outside the class, the two exchanged tense side eyes. Yutang, on the other hand, didn't expect Momo Baby to be a guy. She had initially assumed the person was a girl. In ancient times, women fought battles in this world, so it was only reasonable for her to think Momo Baby was a girl. She then yelled at Lin Mo, asking him to call her after class because they would be playing a game together, just the two of them. However, Lin Mo turned back toward the classroom and calmly replied that, even though he didn't usually play games, she was indeed lucky he had agreed to face her. Yutang immediately grew pissed at hearing those words and angrily asked her teammate if the hungry bastard knew who she was. The girl just laughed and replied that the fatty had been dumped by his crush because of his tiny willy, which was why he was so touchy. However, Yutang began to leave and instructed the blue-haired girl to bring the ugly chimp to her at noon. On entering the class, the nosy boys lacking testosterone immediately crowded Lin Mo, demanding to know all that Yutang had said to him and what exactly was going on between them. But as usual, our guy ignored them like the idiots they were and sat on his chair. Yunshu then leaned close to Lin Mo and said if he wanted to play games with Yutang, he was free to play as long as he liked. No hard feelings. With her hands joined, she reassured him she would fulfill her promise to take him to the Waju Mountain during the weekend and would even add some spice to the hiking by arranging some hot baddies for him. But Lin Mo warned her not to bring anybody along. Hearing this, Yunshu imagined just the two of them alone on the mountaintop, all lovey-dovey, and the very thought of it nearly made her puke up her intestines. So, she hurriedly warned that she was a terrible cook and an even worse girlfriend, worse than Yan Hui. She then begged him not to look her way for love. At noon, the blue-haired girl came looking for Lin Mo in class, but was shocked when she didn't find him and wondered where the hell the donut might have gone to. Meanwhile, our boy was in the school cafeteria, trying to grab some food, while nearby students gossiped, saying with how large his stomach he must eat like a whale. However, he ignored the gossip and approached the old food server, asking him to package his meal. After that, he stepped out of the cafeteria unbothered and was disgusted with how noisy the mortal world was. He thought it would be best if he just went to the mountain. At least there, he wouldn't be disturbed by the mortals. Just then, coming from the opposite direction, was a black-haired chick named Zinni, who was possessed by the demon queen, Venerable. Speaking through Zinni, Venerable suggested that their souls merged since Zinni was afflicted with a terminal illness and might not have much time left. Merging, she insisted, would ensure her survival. Not wanting to die, Zinni accepted the deal, and the demon queen commended her for making the right choice. At that moment, Venerable's spirit merged with hers, and Venerable declared that 18 years of Zinni's life belonged to her. Instantly, Zinni's once ailing DNA was completely healed. After this merger, Venerable remarked that after working for years just to defeat the Emperor, she was still not happy and felt totally empty. Her only purpose in the future now was to revive the demon world. However, she still had a major concern, which was the Emperor might still be alive and could have fallen into this same world. So, she knew she would have to tread carefully. Smiling, she remarked on how pretty interesting the world was. Back in the demon world, she was the only daughter of the Demon King, and no matter how hard she tried, she still couldn't get her father's respect and approval. The male demons also looked down on her and even tried to possess her. So, she had to put on the mask of the evil spirit and annihilate most of the male demons so the rest could tremble and cower at the mention of her name. However, in this reincarnated world, men were disadvantaged and women were superior. Also, the cultivation was not so bad, but the spiritual energy was terrible. At that moment, she stared to the side and noticed that a fat boy had been following her. So, she then assumed the fat sucker must be stalking her because of the beautiful body she had just occupied. To prove her assumption, she halted her movement, turned backwards, and instantly she and Lin Mo locked eyes. Folding her hands, she then warned Lin Mo to stop stalking her while informing him that in this world and the next, she could never bend over for his type. But Lin Mo walked past her like she didn't exist and said she looked like a crackhead addicted to weed. Seething in fury, she stormed off, thinking she would really need to regain her energy as soon as possible and leave this cruel world. Sometime later in school, Lin Mo turned to the side and, noticing Zinni just behind him, wondered why the psychotic girl kept following him. Zinni, on the other hand, was curious as to why the fat guy was heading to the rooftop. However, she felt it was no business of hers, and it was best she stayed far away from the walking McDonald's. But then, she understood that sane students didn't just go to the rooftop, and in this world where the people were both physically and mentally weak, they tended to take their lives when they couldn't handle the heat. She wondered if Lin Mo was one of those people and was planning on committing suicide by jumping off the building. However, she reminded herself that it had nothing to do with her. As she began to leave, she remembered that the friend of the original owner of the body she inhabited had once jumped off a building. So she asked the real Zinni within her if she wanted to save the pot-bellied bastard. Without waiting for an answer, she bolted up the stairs, saying she had initially promised to fulfill her wish, but it would be only this one time. On getting to the rooftop, Zinni stood frozen as she saw Lin Mo standing on the edge of the roof. She immediately tried using her demonic powers to save him, but remembered that she had no power in this world yet. At the same time, Lin Mo, with his eyes closed, was enjoying the peaceful breeze without any noise or distraction. However, his peaceful moment was interrupted when he heard someone move. Of course, it was Zinni who dashed towards him while shouting at him to get down from the edge. She immediately grabbed him by his shapeless waist while Lin Mo yelled, asking the emo crackpot what she thought she was doing. She then tried to lift him off the edge with all her strength, but this boy weighed more than Mark Henry and Big Show combined. Unable to lift 500 pounds of pure fat, they both crashed to the floor, and her ribcage shattered from the intense pressure. She screamed in intense pain while Lin Mo sat on top of her, trying to clear the dust from his eyes. Angrily, he turned, asking her what she planned on doing. Zini replied, saying she was just trying to save his fat ass from cementing to the hard floor. With a dumbfounded look, Lin Mo stared at her, wondering why the girl had assumed he would jump off the building. While on the ground, screeching in pain, Lin Mo stretched his hand, offering to help her up. But she just stared at him, completely perplexed. Lin Mo then explained that the reason he was on the rooftop was to get some peace and quietness and not to jump off the building. He also reminded her that he still wasn't interested in her, in case she was thinking in that direction, which, of course, pissed the girl off. So, she instantly slapped his hand away, asking him to get his fat, disgusting face out of her sight. Lin Mo said fine, he would go, and then he began to leave. Later on in class, Yunshu informed him that Yutang had been searching all over the school for him. However, Lin Mo said it was her problem to deal with, not his, so she should figure it out on her own. But Yunshu said she would accompany him to play the game with her. She also assured him that if he allowed Yutang to eliminate him in the game, then the girl would never bother him again. Still, Lin Mo blatantly refused and said he wasn't going. Realizing he wouldn't fold, Yunshu told him to name whatever he wanted and added that if he agreed to go, she would even go on a date with him. But our top G refused to dish out any simp content and still declined. However, after several minutes of pleading, he agreed to go but warned Yunshu to remember she had promised to take him to the Waju Mountains. Several minutes later, Lin Mo exited the school building to meet Yutang. But then, he glanced up at the rooftop and recalled that he had crushed Zinni's ribs up there. However, he silently hoped she would be okay. He thought to himself that since the mortal body was weak, her ribs should be broken, but surprisingly, he hadn't heard the sound of an ambulance. At that moment, he pictured himself being arrested by the cops. Based on the original owner's memory, he understood that the lives of the people of this world were precious, and their deaths always attracted trouble with the feds. So, he immediately bolted to the rooftop to check on the girl. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Zinni tried to move, but her broken ribs made it impossible. She realized the mortal body was too weak to withstand such an injury. Just then, she started to freeze from the intense cold as the atmosphere on the rooftop became very windy. She then imagined herself crying for someone to rescue her since her cell phone was dead. But she clenched her teeth in defiance, believing that as a demon, she would rather die than lower herself to crying for help like a toddler. She never expected that as an invincible demon that even the Emperor couldn't hurt, she would fall in defeat at the hands of a chubby goat. Suddenly, someone started to approach and alert her. You already know it's our fat boy staring down at her with no expression on his face. Looking up, she asked why he was back and what he planned on doing. However, Lin Mo said to himself that the girl must be a damn fool for not even attempting to call anyone for help. He then placed his hand on her waist to check on her injured ribs, but the girl called him a perv and asked what he planned on doing. Lin Mo retorted that if her fragile ribs broke so easily, it only proved she hadn't been exercising. But Zinni fired back almost instantly, saying she was in better shape compared to a gluttonous hippo like him who was one sandwich away from a heart attack. However, Lin Mo ignored her loud mouth and began to take off his jacket while she yelled, asking what he was doing. Lin Mo then used his jacket to cover her and said since it was windy, it would be best for her to wear it to prevent her from catching a cold. He stood and said the whole thing started because of her misunderstanding, so he would call an ambulance for her, and with that, they were even. Pissed, Zinni told him to take his disgusting jacket off her body. In response, Lin Mo said he could tell she hated him for being fat and wouldn't want to wear his clothes. However, he would advise she wore it because the human body was fragile. Nevertheless, she could just throw the jacket away once the ambulance arrived. Hearing this, Zinni silently mused that she had never expected the sumo wrestler to be such a good guy. While covering herself with his jacket, she pondered on the fact that in this world, people tend to be obsessed with appearance but fail to pay attention to what was really important, the heart of the individual. In the next scene, the ambulance arrived, and Zinni was carried away on a stretcher while two girls watched, wondering what might have happened to her. With her face red from embarrassment, she swore to take revenge for the humiliation she had endured. Later that evening, Lin Mo was back home from a long day at school. Stepping inside the house, he was welcomed by Zixuan, who angrily demanded to know why Yutang had been searching for him. Zixuan then moved closer and yelled at him, asking why Yutang had been looking all over the school for him. With a stern expression, Lin Mo declared that he would say this just once. The guy should scram while he still had the chance. Staring at the cold expression on Lin Mo's face, Zixuan started to sweat from fright and wondered why Lin Mo had a fearful face lately. Still, he screamed at Lin Mo, saying it was certain he must have provoked the girl because no girl in her right mind would want anything to do with his flabby dad bod. However, Lin Mo ignored the clown and started heading to his bedroom, while the brat continued to rain insults at him, calling him Fat Albert and threatening to ask his mom to kick him out of the house. Fed up with the constant insults, Lin Mo turned to the side, called him a shameless child with the IQ of a wet sock, and then reminded him that this was also his home. Infuriated at hearing those words, Zixuan then raised his hands to slap him. But Lin Mo grabbed his hand mid-air and twisted it while the boy screamed worse than a virgin tasting the forbidden fruit, begging him to let go. But with one hand, Lin Mo cast him aside like a piece of old rag. Zixuan collapsed to the floor, sobbing, before scrambling inside the house, crying out for his dad. A few seconds later, his deadbeat father rushed out, calling Lin Mo a hibernating bear and demanding to know why he had bullied his son. Without hesitation, the man raised his hand, threatening to beat the crap out of him. But Lin Mo grabbed his hand just like he did his son, leaving the man in total shock. Lin Mo then stared coldly at the crappy father and warned him never to mess with him again. The father began shouting, calling Lin Mo an insolent bastard, and yelled for his wife to come, claiming that Lin Mo had beaten both him and his son. At that moment, Lin Lai stormed in and immediately locked eyes with Lin Mo tensely. She noticed Lin Mo had changed and was not the kid she used to know. However, she asked Lin Mo to hurry up and apologize to his uncle and cousin. But Lin Mo muttered to himself, saying the old witch was the first person who dared to demand an apology from the emperor himself. Ignoring her, Lin Mo walked past and headed for his room. But Lin Li threatened to take away his holiday pocket money if he refused to apologize. Lin Mo replied and said she could do as she pleased. He then burst inside his room while angrily thinking about money. He opened his wardrobe and then his drawer. He knew it would be impossible for him to eat at the Wazhu Mountain if he was broke. With that, he really needed to figure out a way to make some Benjamins. He sat on his bed, thinking about what things in his room he could sell for money. He then concluded by selling his shoes, clothes, and socks. Without wasting a second, he moved to his computer to confirm if he could sell his personal effects online. Just then, his eyes widened as he realized that there were already buyers ready to purchase. These buyers were mostly creepy girls, asking if the clothes were original if they had a special smell, and demanding to see a picture of him. Creeped out, Lin Mo wondered what the freak's true motives were for wanting to purchase his effects. However, he was determined not to let something as trifle as money stifle him. He understood that if he exercised and regained his strength, he could start making some real cash. Taking off his shirt, he was ready to start training by assuming a karate stance because he knew that the body was the foundation of cultivation. Once he could absorb spiritual energy, he would never be short of money. But after 3 minutes, the lazy sissy collapsed on the bed, exhausted. He had realized that without the support of spiritual energy, his fat body would not be able to forge. Suddenly, his phone rang. It turned out to be Yunshu, who informed him that she was going to climb the Wazhu Mountain the next day. However, she warned that a friend of hers had told her that Yanhui and Zixuan would also be coming along. So, she would suggest he stayed behind, promising to take him another day to avoid being taunted by them. But Lin Mo knew that as the emperor, he couldn't care less about those snobs, so he told her he would go and then instructed her to pick him up the next day. The next day, Lin Mo was out of his room and in the dining area. Seeing him, Zixuan teased him, asking why he was up so early and if Yanhui had invited him out also. However, Lin Mo ignored him as usual and calmly sat down to eat while Zixuan could only stare, wondering why he was not reacting. Suddenly, a charter bus pulled up outside the house. So, Zixuan turned to his dad and informed him that his bus had arrived, saying it was time for him to leave. Stepping outside, Zixuan saw Yanhui already waiting for him, loudly urging him to hurry up. So, Zixuan immediately approached her and said he was scared, so Yanhui inquired why. Entering inside the bus, he explained that the previous night, Lin Mo had attacked both him and his dad. Yanhui immediately asked if he was okay, while a girl sitting behind them cut in, exclaiming that Lin Mo's behavior was completely unacceptable. Making a fist, Yanhui angrily said they had made the best decision not to bring the fatty along with them to Wazhu Mountain, and another girl was in support. However, Yunshu walked up to the girls, took a deep breath, and mentioned that Lin Mo would actually be joining them on the trip, leaving everyone shocked. Yunshu, on the other hand, wasn't expecting Lin Mo to accept going on the trip. She had initially assumed he would be scared to death to see Yanhui. Suddenly, someone wearing sneakers stepped on the bus. It turned out to be our guy who came prepared for the mountain climbing. Unfazed, he began walking past the students, but someone suddenly reached out a hand to stop him. It's Yanhui, who angrily asked why he had pushed Zixuan the night before. Hearing this, Lin Mo looked toward Zixuan, and the dude almost peed his pants. But just then, Yunshu placed a hand on Yanhui's shoulder and defended Lin Mo, insisting it must be a misunderstanding since Lin Mo wasn't the type of a guy to be violent. She then turned to Lin Mo and instructed him to take the front seat, promising he could get a nice view ahead. So, Lin Mo moved to the front and the journey got underway. Out of nowhere, a biker suddenly appeared, zipping past Lin Mo's side and coming into view in his mirror. At that moment, Lin Mo and the biker locked eyes, prompting the biker to accelerate and race ahead, overtaking the bus. The biker then dismounted and started walking toward the bus while Yanhui yelled at him, demanding to know why he was driving so recklessly. However, the biker removed the helmet, and surprisingly, it turned out to be Yutang, shocking everyone. Yunshan, just then, placed her hand over her face, hoping the reason Yutang was there was not to chase after Lin Mo. Hurriedly, she tried to figure out why she was there, while the hopeless simps inside the bus commended her for bringing Yutang along on the trip. Yushan, however, moved towards Yutang and asked why she was there. Yutang answered, saying she came to find the fat man. It didn't take long for Yutang to notice where Lin Mo was seated. So, she approached him and said if not for his big, round head, she would have actually missed him. This statement caused all the students to laugh uncontrollably at Lin Mon. At the same time, Yutang then asked him not to go to the Wazhu mountain, but to accompany her to an internet cafe so they could play the game. She promised after the game she would reconcile him and his ex-girlfriend, who dumped him. However, Lin Mon asked her to stop pestering his life. Angrily, she asked who was pestering him. She muttered to herself, saying if not for the game, why would she have to follow the bag of flour around? With a serious expression, she leaned closer and asked Lin Mon if he had any intention of fighting her in the game or not. However, at that moment, something caught Lin Mo's attention. He noticed the amulet she wore on her neck and realized it contained spiritual energy. Although it was weak, but it must have been made by a cultivator. He noticed that the refining technique used in making the amulet was kinda rough, but it didn't look like something that was made by Venerable. So, he wondered if it had been made by cultivators in this world he knew nothing about. Noticing his distraction, Yutang asked him for the second time to decide if he was going to fight her or not. Lin Mo then replied that he would fight her when he was done with mountain climbing. His reason, however, was to find out the cultivator responsible for making the amulet. Yunshan then interrupted the conversation by asking Yutang to join them in mountain hiking. Looking a bit confused, Yutang turned to Lin Mo and asked if he could climb the mountain, considering his stature. At the same time, the fans club excitedly cheered Yutang on, begging her to accompany them to the mountain. With no choice, Yutang agreed and affirmed that she would even want to witness how the fat guy would climb the mountain anyway. With that, one fanboy then asked Yutang to sit close to him, but she asked him to shut his filthy mouth while she called her aunt to come pick up her bike. After that, she turned, asking Lin Mo if he had the game on his mobile, and insisted they play while on the journey. Lin Mo paused for a moment before agreeing, but with a condition: if she lost, she would have to do whatever he asked of her. After saying that, he momentarily stared at the amulet hanging around her neck. But Yutang asked him to shut his big mouth and said if he lost, he would be her errand boy for life. Another fanboy then interrupted, asking Yutang to play the game with him instead, but she told him to go play with his mother. At that moment, a guy then asked if Lin Mo was really that good at games, wondering why Yutang would only want to play with him. That question was also bugging Zixuan's mind, making him very angry. Shortly afterwards, the game started with Mama Baby sprinting in the air like some airbender while Flying Feather chased after him. However, he suddenly aimed his mystic energy at her. Shocked, Flying Feather wondered if he intended to attack her while moving at a very high speed. She assumed such an attack was impossible. But before she could react, the mystic energy hit her and exploded. With that, the game system announced Mama Baby as the victor. While Yutang stared at her phone and couldn't believe her eyes, Lin Mo turned and calmly told her she had lost. but she gripped her phone in frustration and demanded to know how he had managed to land such an accurate attack. Feeling like a game king, Lin Mo schooled her on how a perfect and well-calculated aim could improve her attack, allowing her to eliminate anything on sight. After the lecture, Yutang stared at him intently, wondering how this fat kid had suddenly become a game genius. However, wearing a sad look, she reminded him that she had promised to do whatever he wanted if he won. Lin Mo then glanced with a side eye and asked her to transfer $10,000 to his account. Yutang smirked and said it was a small request. She said she could even give him money every month and also make his ex-girlfriend return to him if only he decided to become her game sparring partner. But Lin Mo said it wasn't necessary. He then held out his phone, displaying an image of a barcode, and asked her to scan it and transfer the money. So, she collected the phone and angrily made the transfer. She then tossed the phone back to him, saying she had made the transfer and that her number was in his contacts. If she called him, he should make sure to answer. She also informed him not to call her and never to give anyone her number. Suddenly, she stood up, complaining that his fat body had occupied the space and there was not enough space for her to sit. She then walked over to where Yanhui was seated and ordered her to move her flat giant to the front, leaving the girl in shock. Yanhui immediately stood up, fuming that Yutang was being a bully by asking her to leave her seat with Zixuan and go sit with the fat son of a gun. Both ladies locked eyes at that moment, the tension palpable, as if they were starring in a Mortal Kombat poster. Yutang stared at her angrily and then asked her to hurry up. Although Yanhui was burning on the inside, she knew it would be a great mistake to offend Yutang, the queen bee of the school. Noticing the tension, Zixuan quickly stepped in and suggested Yanhui leave, saying Lin Mo might have something important to tell her. This was the way out Yanhui had been searching for. So, she stood up and started walking to the front while muttering that she would have to clarify that the marriage contract between her and Lin Mo was all a joke. For Zixuan, however, he smiled because this was his perfect opportunity to rizz up Yutang. With that, he cleared his throat and then turned to Yutang, asking if she was a coffin because he would love to be inside her. But she coldly told him to get his ugly face and poorly dyed hair out of her sight. Pissed, she thought to herself that she would have stayed with the fatso instead of this purple-haired creep who reeked like he hadn't showered since birth. Shortly afterwards, they finally arrived at the Waju Mountain. As they got off the bus, the students were awestruck by the towering mountain and began grumbling about how they were supposed to climb it. Sensing their fear, the girls told the weak boys not to be afraid and then promised to help them. But in reality, the evil girls' plan was to feel their thighs while carrying them on their backs. Yunchu immediately called everyone to commence the mountain climbing, and 30 minutes later, most of the boys were already tired and ready to give up. Lin Mo, however, were surprised that even with his fat body, he was still more fit than most of them. So, he continued up the mountain, leaving them behind while assuring himself that when he regained his strength, he would crush the pathetic weaklings from existence. On the other hand, the freaky girls commenced their devilish plans and asked to carry the boys on their backs if they couldn't continue. Meanwhile, Yunchu noticed Lin Mo struggling to climb the mountain and couldn't help but feel sorry for him, realizing that no girl was strong enough, like She-Hulk, to carry him on her back. Another 30 minutes gone, and our boy was struggling with the stairs but continued moving with sheer determination. Even though his physical body was very weak, his inner spirit was willing to continue. Later on, Yunchu turned and sighted Lin Mo nearly on his knees, completely fatigued. So, she approached him, asking if he needed help. But he told her to go ahead and focus on herself. He would be fine. He then regained his composure, continued climbing, and said he could still go on. Though he felt exhausted, the trials and tribulations he was going through didn't even compare to the unimaginable things he had to endure on his quest to become an emperor. A few minutes later, Yunchu approached him again, telling him to give it a rest already. But Lin Mo, more determined than ever, refused to back down and pressed on toward the top. While trudging and sweating profusely, some girls sighted him and were amazed at how strong the fat guy was. While the other boys had given up, our boy was undeterred and was determined to reach the top. Shortly after, the rest of the students started heading back home, and when they saw how far Lin Mo had come, the girls were amazed. However, Yunchu approached Lin Mo for the third time, saying it was enough. She said since everyone was tired and had given up, it would be best if they joined the others and headed for the restaurant to have a nice meal. But Lin Mo, a man on a mission, responded with determination, telling her to run along because he was ready to take in the view from the top. While joining the others, Yunchu screamed, asking Lin Mo not to act so bravely because getting to the top of the mountain was mission impossible. But Zixuan chimed in, telling her to leave the slime alone, remarking that if he wanted to throw his useless life away, he was free to do so. 20 minutes later, our boy finally reached the top of the mountain. But right at the top was Yutang, who was shocked when she saw that he had managed to get to the top. Paying no attention to her, Lin Mo stared at the blue sky and then closed his eyes to relish in the beauty. At the top of the mountain, he could sense little spiritual energy. At least he could commence his training. With a smirk, he stretched his hand and unleashed a small ball of blue mystic energy. Utilizing the power of the wind, he was able to summon mystic energy from deep within his guts. Lin Mo understood that as long as he trained, no matter how long it took, he would surely get back on top. Suddenly, a hand grabbed his shoulders. Of course, it was Yutang who asked him what he was doing. Lin Mo replied, saying he was just enjoying the view from the mountaintop. However, Yutang was more concerned as to why he always wore a hard stone expression on his face and said little. While Lin Mo was pissed at how arrogant she was, if it was back in the past when he was an emperor, he would have eliminated 1,000 of her. Yutang then said she had occupied the mountaintop and demanded he move down. In response, Lin Mo said he couldn't walk, but he would appreciate it if she could carry him down the mountain, leaving her in shock. She then tossed a foil-packed meal at him, saying she would allow him to enjoy the top for that day since she was bored anyways. As she began to leave, she informed him that starting the next day, he would commence his job as her game companion. With the girl gone, Lin Mo unwrapped the paper foil and discovered a leftover sandwich tucked inside. Even though food wasn't what he needed at the moment, he just ate it because of the useless, weak body he occupied. Afterwards, he sat on the ground like a monk emitting a bright aura, ready to start training by cleaning his marrow. Later that night, Yunchu received a call from Lin Mo informing her of his decision to stay behind in the Wazhu mountain area even though she was strongly against it. He told her that it was a nice place to stay, so realizing she could not change his mind, she instructed him to contact her if he needed anything. After that, he called his aunt and informed her of his plan to stay on the mountain for the holidays. As expected, she said he could have all the time in the world. With that, Lin Mo approached the elderly receptionist of a 5-star hotel and inquired about the price of a single room for 2 months. The man said it would cost 8,000 yen, so our guy paid for 2 months because obviously he was loaded. With everything sorted out, Lin Mo started his vacation training. He trained harder than Creed, going up and down the mountain, and when the sun came down, he meditated. He also registered for a gym and tried various sizes of dumbbells to gain muscle mass. 2 months went by in a flash, so Yunchu called Lin Mo to check on him. She was already on her way to pick him up, so she asked if he was all set to leave. As the call ended, she was pissed because during the holiday, she couldn't get in touch with him, and Yutang had been on her neck to get him. So that day, she was determined to get Lin Mo at all costs and take him to Yutang. Meanwhile, after 2 months of training, our boy was now more ripped than Goku, even though his spiritual energy was still very weak. While dressed and looking like a snack, he knew he had to continue being a student so as to gather enough spiritual energy. How would Lin Mo becoming ripped progress the plot of this story? Comment Mama Baby if you're eager to find out in our part 2. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As always, thanks for watching.